we have some questions written down for you that we're going to ask you about, and we broke them down into, there's some effortless ones, right, which should be really easy for you. We have some intermediate ones, right, which cause a little bit more thought, and then we have the deep introspective ones. Okay, all right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to set them here by Marla, and what we're going to do is allow you to choose which question you would like, and we'll just kind of go from there. All right, because you may want to start off with an easy one, or you may just want to dive in deep. Right? You may want to just jump in, right? If you're going swimming, you know, just jump in. You just jump in, you know.
Swan dive.
That's right. All right.
So before we jump in, I do want to ask Joe and Andrea Calloway. Just tell us a little bit about you. How long have you been married? So you said we did their premarital.
Yes.
We've been doing premarital for a very long time. So I'm not. How long have you all been married?
10 years. We're going on 11.
Going on 11.
That's correct.
Going on 11 years.
Dated
Awesome.
for 3.
Okay.
Friendship for about 13.
Wow. So you all have known each other for a long time. So these questions should be easy peasy, even the deep ones, right?
Well, we knew each other as friends, and now we're married.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's totally different when you're married, because we knew each other's past, our the secrets in bad relationships, and from the bad ones we knew what we wanted in the good ones.
I know, it's true.
Good.
It's true.
Well, that's
So
good.
that's interesting too. I never thought about that
Yeah.
the way you said that. Yeah. So it is different now when you're married.
Yeah, it is. It is. And from being friends with him, and he would share what he wanted in a relationship and how he would like to go about having a relationship. When I realized that he liked me and I liked him, I did let him take it. He took it.
What do you mean let him?
He took the lead.
Took the
He
lead.
just took the
Okay.
lead.
Okay.
I didn't ask, what are we doing? What are we doing? No, I just let him take the lead.
Okay. Because you already had that
I already knew.
in your mind. Yeah. So that's excellent.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah.
When did you know that you liked each other? That was funny. I heard her say,
I knew
he liked me.
Said, I liked him and he liked me.
Right.
Well, I think we've been going back and forth, and for some years, I would look at her, and I think our friends would acknowledge it before we did.
I know.
Yeah.
So all of our friends around her was like, I think she likes you, and then it was, I think he likes you, and we didn't acknowledge it for a long time. I think we were just being friends and confidants for each other.
We were busy in our own personal lives.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
were.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think once the dust settled and we actually had time to think about ourselves, I think that's when we started seeing each other. So I think I invited her over to my house because she had never been at my house.
Right.
And I said, you should stop over to my house, So I think it was that moment that we kind of realized it a little bit more. But she has another story in terms of...
Well, it's kind of almost the same. People dropped hints, right?
Okay.
I'll say to you that it was the right time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It was God's timing. It was the right time.
Right.
And it was a time when I could hear it and listen. In a time, I'm going to speak for you for a minute, that you could hear and listen and realize, right?
I agree.
Like the noise stopped, the busyness stopped, and my friend said to me, he really likes you, and I'm like, he likes everybody. She's like, no, he likes you. And I'll be honest with you, she said it to me 3 times, and 3 times is the Holy Spirit. So I was like, okay, I need to listen to this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
It was
Awesome.
good.
So it was just like, ping, that little light bulb.
It
said,
did.
I think
It did.
that's him.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's her.
Yeah.
Well, I told her for a long time, don't fight to feel it is bigger than both of us.
And then I ignored him.
But he was right though.
He was.
You stopped fighting.
I did. So it was good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. So now we're gonna get to some.
We're gonna
of
switch
these
gears.
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
So 11 years in, and I'm curious, even as you answer these questions, if they would have been different in friendships versus marriage. But we won't go back to the friend aspect.
Okay.
We'll stay in the marriage aspect.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So we have. Did you say effortless?
Yep.
I put my glasses on so I can read. Intermediate and deep introspective.
I'm gonna let you go first.
All right.
All right, let's start easy. Let's do effortless.
I thought you was just gonna dive in.
No, we're gonna do
Okay.
effortless.
Which
Just
one would
stick
you like?
Okay.
You can.
Well, when it comes to
bottom
Joe,
one.
he can figure
Bottom
out.
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bottom one. See what you have to say.
Oh, okay. What's one of your joys in your marriage?
I'll let her go first.
Our laughter. Because I've never had anybody I can laugh with. He makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
He just gets silly and he makes me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good, hearty laugh.
Okay.
Like my face hurts.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what does he do silly?
Oh, he you know what? He impersonates other people. He talks Jamaican.
He has a great Jamaican
He does,
accent.
he does, right?
He does.
But then he tries to talk Italian, right? With an Italian accent, I gotta tell him, give it up. Yeah, that he doesn't do well.
Well, I haven't been around the Italians long enough
You
to know.
haven't. You
But
haven't.
give me some time, I'll get
I
you
know
all.
you will. He just makes me laugh. He impersonates people and he exaggerates stories.
Okay.
So that makes me laugh. It's a great exaggerator. So, yeah, so that makes me laugh.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
What about for you, Joe?
I think the laughter is one of the things that we both agreed on because she makes me laugh and she does some crazy things sometimes and I just look at her and go, only you would do that. And but I think laughter. But I've also never been with someone that has made me feel so complete because she loves me unconditionally. And that love that I see every day, it's like, wow, I know what that feels like now.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew what that felt like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think just how she loves me
Mm-hmm.
and how we laugh together and how we just enjoy things and we talk about everything,
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, or indifference.
Mhm.
And I like being able to talk about everything. You know, even if it's uncomfortable, I just like that ability. So, but her laughter is also for me. You know,
Good laugh.
Awesome. Awesome. What would you say?
Well, it's funny they said laughter because that would probably be what I would say that I enjoy about us as well.
Yeah.
Because I'll let you tell a real quick short story and then we'll move on.
Well, we were talking about this and so laughter is just like laughter doeth good like medicine.
Right.
And so people have seen me from afar, did not know that I had the type of humor that I do have. So
I didn't know.
he didn't know
did.
that I did.
Yeah.
And so I remember Brittany and I were just like my oldest, my biological oldest. We have 7 altogether. Brittany said, "Mom, what if you married somebody that wasn't funny or didn't laugh?" And we were like, "Oh my God, that would never work in our household."
right.
So when I knew it was a great fit was early in our marriage. I mean, I'm talking like maybe a week or 2 into our marriage.
Yeah.
I came
We
out
were
of the
brand new.
bathroom and I came into the bedroom and I started to do the Irish dancing.
Oh, you did?
And he busted out laughing and I said, "Yes, thank you, Lord. I got the right one."
Oh, what was it
I
called
got
when
the
they
right-
was doing
the Irish dancing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when he just started laughing,
Yeah.
I said, "Thank you, Lord. That is, we're gonna have a great journey."
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
nice.
laughter definitely
Nice.
for
Good.
us. today.
Good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. So you choose.
So it's now my turn.
Yeah.
So effortless, deep, introspect, and what's the other one?
intermediate.
Oh, we're gonna go deep.
Oh,
All
Joe
right.
wants to
Keep it
dive in. That's what I'm
All
talking
right.
about.
All
All right. All right. You ready? You
I don't know.
ready?
Do I have my? Wait a minute. Do I have my suit on? I don't know if I got my diving suit on. I know. That's.
Wow. Okay. So this one. How has your race differences impacted your marriage?
I knew that was going to come up.
That's what he picked. Yeah.
All right. No, you go ahead.
There are major differences in our race and our backgrounds, and so I think the race relationships or the interaction becomes more apparent when it's things in our society that are going on that brings the attention of how I feel as a black man. Just watching all the stuff with George Floyd and just the recent incident that occurred with Tyree Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that bring up my feelings as a black man, and then I have to express how I feel. And sometimes, you know, when I'm expressing how I feel, I think sometimes my wife is feeling empathy for me, but she doesn't always understand truly what I'm going through as a black man. And then I think it brings up some of my own past of being in an institution for as long as I was, and actually being
explain that institution.
Well, institution meaning a place of work.
Okay.
I worked as an electrician. I worked in organization for the health field, and I was the first black electrician for over 30 years. And for 30 years in an environment where there were 18,000 employees, not having anyone that looked like myself was a challenge.
And within the department.
Within the department,
right?
But also there were not very many people in the professional setting when you think about it. So even 30 years ago, there wasn't a likeness of myself even walking through the building, the hospitals, and so I think all that stuff plays a part of who I am as a black man and what I sometimes go through and what I feel in terms of my race in a relationship. I never thought that I would be married outside of the race when I got married. I really didn't. I just thought that God was going to present me with this black woman. And I think that's what I wanted, but it wasn't what God had for me. And I think when I met my wife, I didn't see color. I didn't see her being Italian. And sometimes her actions, I said, "You sure you're not black?" Because of the way that she responds to me is like sometimes a sister. And I think I jokingly say that to her, but it's because that's when I understand that she understands me in those particular moments. But I don't think she understands how I feel as a black man. And we've had those conversations. We were very candid and real about them. As I don't understand how it is to be an Italian and also a woman. So we share those, we try to help each other through them. She allows me to talk it out, because sometimes it gets deep when I'm watching these events on television and I'm like,
and the world is
changed. And I'm like, this is heavy. So, but I think that's how it's impacted our relationship a little bit.
Okay. So, what would you say?
So, we're a very huggy, kissy family. I won't say all Italians are because that's not true. But we're a very huggy, kissy. I'm a very affectionate person. I'm not with strangers, but and
people you're close to.
Right, and that really bothered Joe. And so there was this. I can remember when we first started dating. He's like, "Yeah, you got to do a church hug." I'm like, "A church hug? What the heck?" And then Ron Cooper sitting at the table, right? He's going, "Yeah, Joe, I got you, Joe." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what the heck is a church hug? What are you kidding me?" Well, you can't do that. So that played a huge, right.
Give us
so
some space.
That really played a role. And do I now do church hugs? No. But it was an adjustment. But I'm a little bit more cautious, not because of Joe, but just kind of planted a little seed. I'm fine with my family and stuff. But then there was, I will really make you laugh, there's the loudness in my family, right? So we go to my mother-in-law's and we eat, and most of the time we're outside and people are just kind of having their own conversations. But when you get to my mother's house, we're like all in the garage because she's got a fixed up garage, and the TV's going and then music's playing and everybody's talking above all of that, not finishing their sentences. So you and I could be talking.
That sounds like a black family.
And I could hear something else going on here and go, "Yeah, I remember when we did that," right? And so when we first started dating and he came around, I was like, "Where's Joe?" And he was sitting in the family room, and I'm like, "Babe, what are you doing in here?" He goes, "The music's going, the TV's going, you're all talking above all of this, and nobody's answering any questions." He said, "I got a headache. He said, "I can't do this." But we've learned to adjust. I think food played a huge role.
Okay.
Right? So I grew up with a lot of vegetables.
Okay.
And not a lot of meat. I mean, we weren't, but we had meat and we had vegetables. We had salad.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm hanging out with the Calloways, and we've got potato salad and macaroni salad and baked macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
Right? And then
heavier
meat,
meals.
Right? And I'm like, oh no. And so we would sit down to eat, and he'd be like, "Babe, where's the starch?" And I'm like, "Well, there's the potatoes. There's the potatoes right there, So that was an adjustment. But I have to give him credit. He came around, and we eat more vegetables than we do starch. And I think when we're in our own house, the race is not an issue.
That's what I was going to ask you. What externally
walking into Walmart, people staring at us in public. You know, my own family, I will tell you, some of my family was rude about it. I am a change agent, and I make my family feel very uncomfortable. So I'm used to that. And actually, it was really the Holy Spirit who gave me the words. And I said, you don't have to like it, you don't have to understand it, you're just not going to be rude about it.
That's good.
So that's kind of, it's been an interesting journey. It's been an interesting journey. And so if somebody didn't like him because he was black, maybe somebody didn't like him because now he was the man in my life, right? So the same adjustment in your family with a couple people, right?
There were some adjustments.
Yeah, me being white or me being the woman in his life. So, but I think we're at a point where I have to be honest with you, I toy between being exhausted with it and feeling heartbroken with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
So has it gotten any easier? All right, because you're going into 11 years of marriage, so I can imagine the first couple of years there probably was extremely intense or whatever.
It was. I think it was more intense.
But now, is it any easier, or do you still feel that same level of intensity with external?
I don't feel the same I did when we first got married. What I feel more of now that I didn't before because I wasn't as exposed, it's the hurt. I mean, why the hurt? I'm like, and I can't do anything about it, right? So part of my personality is I'm a nurse. So you assess and you fix and right, and I can't do anything to fix it, right? I can't do anything to, like one day I said to Joe, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. The next time somebody stares at us, I'm just gonna say it's 2022, get over it. And then he's like, babe, don't make me have to fight in public, you know?
Right.
I'm like, okay, right, but I
so people actually still stare, even 11 years in.
Okay. There's different levels of how I feel, Scotty.
Yeah.
It's different, and I'm more educated.
Okay.
And I have more tools. That's what I could say to you.
Okay.
And the staring bothers her more than it bothers me, actually, because when they look, I said, just say, hey, we look good.
All right.
You know, and I don't go as deep unless somebody's like really blatantly, you know, I think my concern gets deeper if they, and I hate the stereotype, but if they have the look like a real racist that really wants to do some kind of bodily harm, then the caution comes up, because I'm saying this person is just more than just staring. There's a concern there, so we need to be cautious.
Right.
But if it's just somebody staring, I just like, well, let them stare. I don't care.
Right.
I'll wave it. Sometimes I'll wave at people. You know, just to throw them off. But if someone looks like they're endangering, like they're waiting outside to run you over when you, I'm mindful of that, and I said we need to be careful of this situation. So I do.
So you have to discern more.
I have to discern more.
Right.
Yeah. If I think it's someone that's out to do bodily harm. So.
Because like you said, you know, you're an attractive couple. You are, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking because you are an attractive couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
No, you say you guys. You don't think people
I know that
see it that way?
I don't think of it that way, because that to me is being kind of boastful about how we look. So I don't think of it that. But what I will tell you,
No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
I do too.
No, go ahead.
I know she says I'm being witty, but I was like, listen.
I know.
No, go. I'm sorry.
I do want to share with all of you that one of the things I did say to Joe when we started dating, I was very attracted to him because he was black, and I like difference, and I like change, and I want to learn. You know, I want to learn. So that was one of my attractions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. I
told her don't fight the feeling.
I was going to tease and be like, the darker the berry, the sweeter.
Well, I just learned that after I dated him. So then I never even heard. So, yeah.
And now all of her Italian friends are looking for somebody because you done set the goal, babe.
Like I said, he likes to exaggerate and tell stories.
No, you could do what's asking. Do I have any friends?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna move on.
Well, we can't answer that question,
right?
Because we're the same way. So
you are.
But so we go keep moving on because I really want us to be able to get through these. So you're up, Andrea.
Let's do an intermediate.
She wants an intermediate one.
Let's see what the one is, because there's one that I was hoping we get.
Okay.
Let's see. Put my glasses on.
Can you read my?
Okay.
My writing?
What words of encouragement would you give to a young marriage, a young married couple that's struggling?
We both agreed on this one. Counseling.
Yes.
Counseling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, counseling.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a practical step to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I had a follow-up question, but I didn't want to interrupt what you were saying. So we do premarital, and that's part of what these sessions, these videos are about. And we're running into couples that the males don't want to do counseling.
Yep.
You know, it's like the female is like, hey, we need to talk to someone, and we really have been. We're glad that you guys are coming along because there's a lot of work to be done to speak life into these marriages and help people navigate through some of these challenges. But what we've noticed again is that men tend not to want to do the counseling piece, or they'll start or won't stay committed to it.
We've never been given the permission to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think because of the generational things that have held us back as men and said, real men don't cry. Real men don't, ask for help. Real men, all these stereotypes that go along with being men have stopped us from moving forward. I remember, when my brother died probably about 4 years ago, I didn't understand that I was actually dealing with grief to the extent where I actually saw a grief counselor. And so it was the grief counselor that helped me to identify some of the feelings and emotions I was going through. But I remember talking to her and I said, I'm just very grateful for having this outlet to be able to talk to someone. And she shared with me that I'm her first African-American male.
Really?
That she's ever counseled. She says she's counseled white men, a lot of women, but very few black men want to go for counseling. And I said, well, I'm here to tell you that if I know someone that needs it, I definitely encourage them to go, because it's something that helps us to deal with our stuff, and it's a safe place to be able to talk about your stuff. So even in your marriage counseling, it's a safe place for people to be able to talk about what they're going through. And I think people need to have a safe place and a trusting place to go. And so I think that's what we need to allow people to know. These places are out there. They are some safe places, but you got to make the step, because if you don't put forth the work and the effort, nothing that you do in life is going to succeed. So even if that marriage doesn't succeed, if you still go into the next marriage with the same concept that I'm not going to seek counseling for anything that's wrong, then the next one will fail. And so it'll be just a continuation of failures. So do you want to continue to fail, or do you want to succeed?
Well, and I think I'm going to add to what you're saying. I think the other important thing is I'm an advocate of counseling. I've been in counseling. I've been a counselor for 30 years. And I think sometimes the question could be, why don't you want to go for counseling? And allow somebody to be a little vulnerable and, well, this is the reason why, right? Because I think that we have to help people heal their wounds, right? And it's kind of hard to be vulnerable and tell people your secrets, right? And so it could have nothing to do with the marriage and everything to do with what somebody went through personally long before they married this person, right? So I don't think it's as simple as go for counseling. I think that there's got to be that kind of, why don't you and I talk about why you don't want to go, right?
I like that. That's good.
One of the things that we have found in that is, even still, we've asked people and they've been like, I just don't want to. And it's just kind of blown off kind of thing. What I'm finding, which I think is just going to be a continuation or just necessary and a blessing to people. I'm finding that when we do marriage coaching or premarital coaching, men, like when you go to counseling, you went to a woman,
That's
right?
correct.
A grief counselor. We're finding that a lot of people that we're seeing, the men are appreciative that it's not just me, but that that is you and Scotty.
Okay.
So they're able to get his perspective.
Okay.
And I believe they feel more at ease and relaxed because they're also getting a male perspective.
You're absolutely
I agree.
correct.
Not
Yeah.
just a female's
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to marriage.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not just, oh, well, she's going to, because she's
Agree
a woman,
with her.
she's going to agree with you.
Right, right.
Or we can actually sit and we've had couples, you know, say, okay, well, we want to come and talk to you all. And I know it's because it's both of us.
Good. Perfect.
And I think that's really probably one of the best things about the marriage coaching is it's not just one person.
Sure,
Not
sure.
just a male, not just a female, but both perspectives. And then we also break it up. So they have an opportunity to talk specifically
Nice.
to Scotty,
Nice.
as the man does, and the woman has an opportunity to speak specifically to me. And so
That's a
been,
great point.
That's
Yeah.
been
That's a good point.
a blessing, and maybe we need to change some of the terminology. You know, counseling has a
It's a
stigma
Yeah.
with it.
A stigma.
You
Yes.
know, and that's one of the
Yeah.
things, you know, bringing couples together at marriage events where it's a social aspect as well as an opportunity for men to connect with other men and those
Right.
kind of things. I think that we may need to do more of that
Yeah.
in order to really help, especially men, feel comfortable
Sure.
having some
Likeness of self.
yeah.
Just likeness of
Yeah.
self and feeling comfortable, like
Yeah.
they're not going to get bombarded
Exactly.
with estrogen and progesterone.
Exactly.
Especially if you're coming from a background where you've never seen a
Yeah.
healthy relationship.
Yeah.
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 So that's all you know.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all you can gauge it against. So.
Yeah.
And for us, and I don't want us to, just get stuck on this one because we move forward, but I just want to follow up to Joe about with black men, what we run into is there's a trust issue there, right?
Yes.
Where we feel like,
Yep.
I don't want nobody knowing my business,
yeah.
right?
Right,
And so
right.
that barrier is
Right,
there.
right.
And the point you brought up, I think us coming in collectively has helped us kind of work through that a little bit.
Good.
There is something that I say to people, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a spiritual, whether it's a financial, whether it's your career. I always say to the kids, and even to my wife, sometimes I'll go, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
And if you want it badly enough,
Yeah.
you'll do what's necessary
Yeah.
to achieve
Yeah.
that goal.
Yeah.
So even when the kids would say things, I go, well, how badly do you want
Right.
it?
Right.
And if you want it badly enough,
Yeah.
you'll do what you need to do.
That's right.
Where relationships are concerned, how badly
Yeah.
do
That's
you
a,
want it?
that's a great point.
And if you
That's
want
a
it
good
badly
point.
enough, you'll go for marriage enhancement.
Yes.
You'll go
Yeah.
for
Yes.
counseling as an
Yes.
individual.
Yeah.
You'll work on your past stuff and the things that have held you down for so long.
Yeah.
But you will do it if you want it badly enough. So
And this being a Christian organization, right, we have the Word, and the Word is full of wisdom
It is.
and practical
It is.
application,
Right.
right, that
Yeah.
you can
Right.
find
Yeah.
in the Bible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And some of those things, like how can two walk together unless they agree,
Agree.
right? That's a basic concept
Right.
where if you stop and think about that, if you're in conflict, right, and you're married to someone and you're trying to get somewhere, well, where are you trying to get to, right? And so it makes you kind of slow it all down
Right.
and figure out, okay, where are we at? Where are we trying to get to?
Right.
And that,
the concept that you're saying, you're
identifying
sharing
things.
is correct under normal circumstances.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times, and one of the things that we're doing in another event that I'm working with, is I say, we concentrate on the surface, but there's things below that brought you to this place. And so as we stay on the surface and we address those issues, we still haven't addressed the
There's
things
an
that
iceberg
are
there,
underneath
right?
the concrete.
Right.
And you got to chisel away
Yeah.
to get to this place of being able to meet them here. And so I think sometimes we are a lot of people talk about the surface stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, but why did you do that?
Right.
In terms of relationships, I don't want any counseling. well, why don't you want counseling?
Yeah.
You know, and so we've got to go below.
Yeah.
So I just think we need to concentrate on below sometimes.
That's good. That's good. Aren't you excited?
I am excited because they're right in my wheelhouse. Because we do assessments with couples, and we have them do childhood information and bring it forward
to see what stuff you brought into your adult life
and what's impacting you. And it's been fantastic. I mean, you always see the eyes are just like, wow, and being able to see each other. You know, I didn't know that they were struggling with that. You know, and I didn't know he was struggling with that, and it gives you a different perspective versus taking things personal. You start to understand, okay, no, this isn't even about me. This is some trauma and some pain that happened before.
And owning your own stuff.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So let's keep it moving. We got orange.
Intermediate.
The intermediate, the deep. Oh, Joe he did the deep last time. Effortless.
He can pick whichever one.
Whichever one you like.
It's effort. I don't want effortless. Let's do that. I'll do that.
Here, go with an intermediate one. Okay.
Intermediate?
No, that's not me though.
Okay.
You're right. I knew he wanted to go deep. All right.
That's why you had to make sure you had your scuba gear on.
I did.
What challenge in your marriage made you wonder if you would get through it?
I'm trying to think. I know.
Okay.
His controlling spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. And his controlling spirit. And Joe and I, as much as we come together and we do great as a couple, we are very different. And I am very independent. And good, bad, or indifferent, right? So some days it plays a great role and some days it doesn't have a role for it, right? So, his controlling spirit.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
So
where you pointing
I'm trying to get my thoughts together. So, as you dated, right, and before you got married, so you were dating, you knew each other about 3 years. How was it different from dating versus when you got married?
Good question. Or was it different?
Or was it?
No, it wasn't different. It stayed.
So why didn't you? Why? So you saw it when you were dating?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just knew we were supposed to be together.
Okay.
So I knew we were going to stay. We were going to be together, and it was shortly after we got married. We were having conflict of interest.
Okay.
And I'll never forget it. It was the old kitchen, and we were sitting at the kitchen table, and I think it was breakfast, and I just looked at him and I said, "We got to figure this out because I'm gonna die with you. So we got to figure this out."
Is that what you said?
I did. Those were I said.
I know what you said, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's not how she said. That's the fluff version. But that sounds good, right?
I know. Well, we're on camera, right? So yeah.
Okay.
So before I ask you that question, Joe, what's your thoughts about what Andrea shared about a controlling spirit? What was your thoughts about that?
My spirit of control has always been like that because I've always had to be in control.
Okay.
I was the youngest of the boys in my family, but I was made to feel like the eldest. And because of the responsibility that was given to me, I was always in control.
Right.
They always came to me for decisions. They always asked my opinion. I always made things happen. And it's been a part of who I am, even in my job.
Yes.
I've always been in control. I've always run things, even though there are times when I may have had a boss. I always felt like I was the boss. I always took control. And even things that I get involved in, I just take control. And sometimes it takes somebody to say, okay.
And you're a leader too.
Yeah, and I think it's a leadership quality. So I had to work on that. Even when I ran a group of men. From in the electrical field, and so from coming from that, and I'd come home and my wife would look at me and say, "Babe, you're not talking to one of the guys at the job," and it's because all day long I'm shouting requests and demands of what needed to happen. I go on the floors and I deal with nurse managers and VPs, and I told them what to do because they needed. That was my job. I mean, you're not an electrician. You need my expertise. I don't need yours. And so we had a power loss at the hospital, and the CEO and the president came down, and we started hollering orders to him. Because you're not an electrician. The hospital's lost power. You know nothing about it.
Get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Right.
And so we continued to holler, and I just operated in that for as long as I could remember. And I think my controlling spirit has been a blessing and a hindrance in some way too, because she knows that if something needs to get done, I'm going to get it done. But in the same sense, when she needs to be heard, sometimes I have to have the ability to turn it off and say, okay, Joe, shut up. She's trying to talk to you. So you've
learned that over the
I'm still learning.
11 years and still learning that.
I'm still learning because sometimes, but you know, I've been single for a long time too. So I ran my own house. So now
independent.
There's someone in the house that's helping me with my decisions now, where I didn't have that. So it's
the same here.
Yeah,
I was alone 19 years.
Yeah, so it's coming together as one.
Yeah.
You know, and learning each other.
Right.
So I think it was a challenge.
How do you feel about submitting that to your wife?
Well, that's what I felt she wasn't giving me.
Okay.
Because when you asked the question of
the challenge
that you didn't know if you were going to overcome,
I wasn't sure if she was going to be able to be submissive to me because of her strength. And so
I hate that word.
That word, submissive.
Yeah. Well, she realized it after becoming saved what submission meant, because you knew it didn't mean the same thing as I'm going to beat you up.
That's what the world says.
Right.
And so even when you talk to some of the women in your family, and you talk about submission, I think we talked to some of your Italian friends. I think you have another friend that she didn't like the word submission, but they just kind of cringed over it because you know, they're so used to a culture
that looking a certain way,
but they're also used to a culture of men telling them what to do and how to do it, and don't have a thought or a response to anything that I tell you. So she was already kind of going through the beat down mode of feeling like, okay, here's another man telling me what to do, like the Italian guys. When that was never me. I was just trying to run things in my mind effectively and thoroughly, and let you not have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about the bills. You don't have to worry about this being done. You don't have to worry about making arrangements for us to fly out of here. It's done. I got it.
I got it. Right.
You know, so I had that I got it spirit, but sometimes she liked it and sometimes it was a lot. And then she would say, well, babe, I want to have some say-so in what's going on here.
See, I love this because it requires you, I'm sorry, because it requires you to talk those things out at a deeper level, right? And kind of look at yourself, right? For you to say, okay, I got a controlling spirit, right? So there's some self-identity there, it's some ownership there, and then to be able to talk that out and stay together while you work through it.
And also channel it. So how to operate in it and still be you. Because I'm not trying to die of that the way that I am just to make everyone else happy. It is a part of my personality, my character, and so it's the same thing that you loved about me that can sometimes be the same thing that can bother you. You know, so I understand that. I work on balance every day. You know, you know me, you're my friend, so you know how I am. But as men, it doesn't bother us. It's only when a relationship comes involved, and I think it happens more with women because of based on where they may be coming from. I have this struggle sometimes with my mother because my mother will sometimes say, you know, he always wants to be in control.
And I'm the boss. Him and his sister want to be the boss.
And even my sister sometimes, you know, but these are strong women who feel like, okay, is he trying to be stronger than me? You know, and I've had this struggle with strong female personalities. So it's not the first.
Well, and I feel like allowing him to have too much control will paralyze me, right? Because then, what do you think?
Lost in it.
Right. What do you think? What do you think, Ray? And I got to be honest with you guys. I'm going to tell you up front. I think about if God forbid he dies before me. Oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know. Joe made all the decisions. That's first of all, it's not even
that's
my
the thought that you have in your head.
I do. And first of all, it's not even my personality. But That's not my makeup. My makeup is not to not be a partner. That's not my makeup. So, but we've worked through a lot of it, and we continue to work through it. And I think the difference now that 11 years later, we're listening, and I'm not taking his controlling spirit as personal.
Right.
I think it
when did that
more,
shift for you? When did that start?
When I just started thinking it differently, and I think it shifted when I prayed more and listened more when the Holy Spirit spoke, and the more
got
counseling.
some more healing for yourself.
I did healing for myself, right? My counseling, you know, to just understand people, right? Yes, he's my husband and I love him. However, he's still a person first, and he's got stuff, and I got stuff, and we start triggering each other's stuff, and so we have to own our own stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have any stuff.
I know you don't.
Yeah. Outside of our relationship with the Lord, I mean, this is the most intimate relationship you're going to have. You know, as much as we love our children and our parents and all of that, I mean, your spouse, it doesn't get any more intimate than that. You know?
Right.
Okay, good. All right. How we doing?
We're doing
Andrea's up. Oh, okay. All right. She done got warmed up now. She wants to go for the deep, introspective one now.
There's one question I want you to ask us that I want to answer.
It said, what marriage lesson have you learned?
It's a give and take, and sometimes it's a giving of 100%.
We talked about that the other day.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a giving of 100%. And the other thing that I learned, and I've just started kind of doing this in the last year, was just praying and turning the situation over to God before I even open my mouth. I might be in the car driving, and I'm like, Lord, I'm letting you do this. I'm not going to walk in. I'm going to say hello. I'm not going to do one thing. And really, it works. It takes patience, and it takes a lot sometimes to just not say anything, but really praying and asking God really to take care of the situation.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Okay.
What about for you, Joe? Do you remember the question?
Yeah. What lesson have I learned
Yes.
in marriage? I think we definitely, like, before we have deep conversations, we pray. When we know that there's something that has triggered something, or something that's getting ready to, that we know it was intense the day before, and we knew we couldn't address it like we wanted to, I'll grab her hand, or she'll grab my hand based on where we are. But one thing we know is that we got to pray before we have this conversation.
How do you do that when you just want to, when you feel like you were right and they were wrong, and you just want them to know?
Well, the thing about it is that, you know what, it's submission. And that's what we talked about, submission.
We do that with each other.
And then you ask yourself the question, is it that, what's more important?
Where are you trying to get to?
And Andrea uses the phrase all the time, is it more important to be a right or to be effective? And sometimes I've used that in my daily thing, even when I'm at work and I'm talking to people. I was like, okay, I just want to be effective. I don't
that
need to
ministered to you.
Yes, it ministered to me. And so it ministers to me in my relationship. I don't need to be right. I just want to be effective. I want her to hear what I'm trying to get across to her. And so sometimes it's like, Joe, shut your mouth. I know you want to say something, because it's like right there. But I don't, because it's like, I don't need to be right all the time. And you know what? Once we're done and we've prayed and we've had the conversations, sometimes we're done and she goes, babe, I love you. And I go, I love you too. But we realize how stupid it was.
It could have been, right.
Sometimes
it's just wanting to be heard.
Just wanting to be heard.
We're struggling
and
just be heard. And I validated.
I was going to say,
people love to be validated. So sometimes some of this stuff could go away real quick if you just validate, right? I heard what you said. I don't really agree with you, but I heard what you said, right? And that's okay not to agree, right? But at least let me know you heard. I've never been heard in my family, unless we're talking about a cookie recipe or having babies.
Some domestic issue.
Some domestic, right. I mean, up until the time my father died, which was only 16 years ago, I walked in the dining room and he was talking to my brothers and he said, we're talking business, can you please step out? And I'm like, oh, you didn't. Right? So that will resonate. Joe's never done that.
Right.
But that, right, I can't believe you just devalued.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I think not being valued and being validated, again, in a lot of our relationships growing up, you now question, were you really ever validated in many ways? I mean, I think when we think about our parents, and it stems not from the surface, what you lacked before, you know, I mean, you hear so often that people go, well, I know my mom and dad love me. Well, how many times did they tell you? It wasn't something that they said, you know, I want you to know that I love you. We don't hear those things. We weren't validated with the verbal love being said to us. We did it according to the actions we thought we felt.
Right.
And so sometimes it's because they didn't know how to verbalize that I love you. And now that generational thing where I may not have heard I love you, I say it all the time to the kids. Oh, do you know how much I love you? Did I tell you how much I love you today? You know, it's like they probably would hear it 10 times a day when we were, you know, they were in the house with me, or even when I called, you know, Dad loves you, right? You can always call Dad. My texts are sent and ended with I love you and hearts and emojis and all that stuff. But it's because I never received that verbal I loved you. I know that my parents loved me because they gave me the action, but the verbal piece, people don't realize how important it is to hear it. You know, it's not just by what you do, your deed, you know. We've justified it.
Do you think some of that is I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, it's just like when you apologize, right? If I don't tell you I'm sorry, but I just give you the actions of being sorry, it's like, no, I prefer you to tell me that you're sorry than just act like, you know, we're just going to, I'll just wash over it and do something to apologize versus telling you. So go ahead.
I was just going to ask, when you talked about your parents, do you think it's generational, meaning like their generation didn't really verbalize it, right?
I mean, for me, and I go back ancestral wise. I mean, I go so far back in terms of all the things. I mean, you know, for us as people of color, we go back to slavery. You know, the division of families and not even knowing what love was because you didn't even grow up with your father and your kids were separated from you. And, you know, I don't think that those emotions were even a part of who we were. We weren't able to feel. And if you did feel, the old term of when they beat you, they would beat you and tell you to not cry, or I'll give you something to cry about. That's stopping you from actually being able to feel and show an emotion is big. And sometimes some of our parenting, people even in our generation would do the same thing to their kids. And so we don't realize the generational curses that we're causing on our children's children because it doesn't stop unless you stop it and recognize this ain't right. So,
but I want to add one more thing though, that I love you. So when I speak to the kids, we always say love you before we hang up, and so they'll always say love you. My son-in-laws are saying it now. It's like, Leanna, Kyle said he loves me. Yeah, Mike keeps on hearing us talk. I love you, love you. So Nick does the same thing. I love you, Mom.
That's
okay,
good.
all right. Right, but you're right. It's just at the end of the day changing the generational curses because we've all got them. We've all got them. So, all right.
Excellent.
How we doing? We got a couple more.
Look at that.
We got a few more. Okay, go ahead.
Andrea's
up.
We haven't gotten it yet.
So they've stayed away from the intermediate one. So maybe.
That's intermediate.
That is.
What expectation did you have for your spouse that you now realize was unfair?
I was hoping that he could understand what I came from. The being devalued and
So that was an expectation that you had
like
for
I
him.
could say it and he would do it.
He would know.
Yeah, he would know. I say it, you know it, now you're going to treat me differently, right? It's being a parent, right? So being a parent for 19 years by myself, you told your kid, do this, they did it right, so not good.
Okay. What about
the expectation that I had, I thought she would know what I was feeling as a black person, to be honest. I think I just thought that she would know because she was Italian, that they themselves have gone through discrimination. So I'm thinking, well, surely. And so sometimes we would have these conversations where I said, you know, Italian people didn't arrive, they still look at Italians as people of color sometimes.
Yeah,
and so
Sicilians.
And so I said, so when I hear people not acting though these things didn't happen in the Italian race, I'm kind of floored. And I'm like, really? You think you've arrived in our community, in our society, where the Anglo-Saxon whites don't believe that you are a superior race because you're Italian, you like us. And so I sometimes look at people that feel like they've arrived. And so I just had an expectation, well, surely my wife understands because they treated Italians like black people back in the day. And so when I didn't kind of see it and everybody just kind of had an arrival spirit, I was like, okay. So
I have a follow-up question to that. So when did you realize that was an unfair expectation that you had for your wife?
I don't know when. I think it was just constant conversation about how she felt and how I responded and things that I was seeing. It was a trial because even in the beginning of our relationship, when her brothers were like giving me a questioning, no, they were drilling me.
Well, you felt like they were drilling.
Well,
it's something we do.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
we do, because we want to make you feel comfortable. So we want to want to ask questions about what's going on in your life, right?
Right.
Babe, I think initially it wasn't making me feel comfortable. It was a drill.
You're right. Yeah, that probably.
The comfort didn't come until they knew who I
Yeah.
was, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of times people only know what they know about people of color from the news.
I know,
News,
you said
right,
that, I
right.
know.
And so when they were drilling me, it was like, where are these people coming from?
I know, but you
some
were
of the
really good.
Well, some of the questions were like they thought I lived in this area where they were going to be shooting all over the place.
They did?
Joseph asked.
Well,
No.
that you never traveled outside of
Yeah,
Right.
they
off
didn't-
of
they
Genesee
didn't-
Right,
Street.
right,
Right.
okay, you're right.
And
Right.
have you ever been in a plane? It was
Oh,
like a
okay.
lot of questions that
Right.
were like,
Without like beating around the bush.
yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Do you get Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, watch the movie Our People.
We just
We started
watching
it. We haven't
Yeah.
finished it yet.
Yeah, we just
We're gonna
started
finish
it.
it.
Very
We're
good.
gonna
We
finish
watched
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, back on track.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
So when did I understand?
So it's just been progressive
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
conversations,
Yeah.
and you realized it was
Yeah.
unfair.
But I'm okay with the conversation. So,
All right.
oh, is it my turn?
Mr.
so
Yeah,
we
go
good.
ahead.
What's that?
So you got one effortless and two intermediate. Joe said he don't want no effortless. Tell us something you feel your spouse does not truly understand about you.
Ooh. What?
No,
Oh.
listen.
Oh, I
You
answer?
go ahead.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
do I feel that she truly doesn't understand about me? A lot of my stuff goes back to understanding me as a black man. I mean, she can't truly understand what it's like to be a black
Okay.
man. She can have conversations with me. She can try to empathize with me, but in terms of understanding what I go through on a daily basis, I don't think she'll ever understand it because she ain't black and she ain't a man.
Right.
So, and I don't understand what it's like to be a woman or an Italian woman. So,
Do you want her to understand? You wish she did understand.
yeah, but you know what? One of the things that I realize, and I used to say this all the time, unless you are in the exact same shoes, you can't understand it. The only
To
way,
that degree.
Scotty and I could probably understand the conversation a little bit more about being black men, because we're black men. But you can't understand, or she can't understand what it is to be, first of all, a different sex,
Right.
and to be a male.
Yeah.
So, I mean, unless you're the same, it's almost like when you talk about alcoholism and me trying to counsel you on alcoholism. I've never been an alcoholic.
Right.
And so
That's a good
I
example.
can't be as effective as the person that has been delivered from alcoholism and now alcohol counseling.
Right.
And you can have things to talk about that can help you with it in a more effective manner. It's not to say that I couldn't counsel you, but I think effectiveness comes from actual life experience.
I love that example.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I said that.
Okay.
What about for you?
I come from an alcoholic background, not me personally, but people in my family, and I think Joe will never understand those characteristics that I've developed. They're actually like life-saving characteristics, right? That I've developed
For survival.
For survival, right? Survival characteristics. So I'm working through those. I think that I think I've said this to you before, like as the years go on, I become more and more attached to him, whereas before I was not, because when you come from that alcoholic background, there's always that inconsistency. You never know when the other shoe's going to drop. So if I just self-preservation.
So you couldn't really be intimate with vulnerable.
Right. Oh, that word really always. I remember one time I was in counseling and my counselor said vulnerable, and I put again, like, please don't say that word while we're having this counseling session. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Yeah. So, but the nice thing is that he will listen. Even if he doesn't understand, I'm just happy that he listens. And we learn. And I want to just say something that you guys didn't ask me, but I have to give him credit. I could never be the great teacher I am to people of color if I wasn't married to Joe. Because he's taught me so much that I really don't take anything personal, right? I understand where it's coming from. So for that, I'm very grateful.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
good.
All right, we got two questions.
Yeah,
not me.
Let's see what this one says.
Okay.
Oh, you don't read it.
No, go ahead. Go read it. I was
You
gonna.
go.
I don't have my glasses on anyway.
Read it.
Okay. What characteristics do you love about your spouse? I'm sorry.
I'm looking at you like, is that what it says?
What characteristic do you love most about your spouse, or just a characteristic that you love?
His sense of humor.
His sense of humor.
I do. His sense of humor and his sense of organization. And even though he's opposite of me and he's just kind of a straightforward type of guy, and he's much predictable than I am, it helps me to balance.
Okay.
Awesome.
That's good.
And I like the fact that you're kind of like all over the place in terms of your thoughts and your decisions. And she might say, let's go buy this Winnebago or something for $50,000. And I'm like, that's not in the budget. So I like that because she makes me, she takes me over the edge a little bit, and then I come back. And so I think I need that because sometimes I can be too anal, too structured, and it's tiring sometimes. You don't realize how exhausting it can be, always being in control and in charge, and it's like, okay, by the end of the night, just like, shh, you can let down. But I'm learning to be more relaxed and not so structured, and be more spontaneous when it comes to things, and not put it on the spreadsheet.
Right. That's good.
And doesn't marriage really create the environment for us to learn those things about ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're willing to hear them.
If you're willing
Yeah.
to
Right.
hear
And
them.
I think it depends on when you care about somebody.
Yeah.
When you care about somebody, you love someone, and you trust somebody, then that submission comes in there. It's like, okay, I trust her. She's not going to do anything to hurt me.
Right.
I know that she's got my back. I know that she loves me. And you can just like, okay, she's got it. Okay, I believe in her.
So I know we have one more, and I know what that question is, so that'll be an easy one for them. So I just want to do a follow-up to this. So as we're talking about the characteristics that you love about your spouse, what happens when conflict comes? You're in conflict and you start to forget about those characteristics. How do you work through that? Do you understand my question?
Yeah.
So how do you work through that? Because I've put that question out there because, again, people who are listening, young marriages, they're in conflict. They haven't found that place of walking in agreement and the peace that comes with it. They're busy pointing at the other person and focused on what they're not getting, and so they have that conflict. So they start to forget about those wonderful characteristics that they talked about in premarital. You know, why do you want to be with this person? Oh, I love them because, and now they're stuck in that place of craziness. So just kind of, I don't know if I have a question around that, but maybe if you could just speak to that a little bit.
I think you have to speak to that situation. And in our premarital counseling classes that we did before we got married, of course, we had some wonderful counselors, the Goings, and in that counseling session, in that session, they used to always look at things and situations and ask the question, you know, and say, "I'm not the enemy."
Yes.
And I used to remember that when things would arise and I'm like, she's not the enemy. I'm not the enemy. And so sometimes you have to start speaking those things as though they are. And so, you know, you have to say to your wife, she's not the enemy. You know, I love her. She's got my back. And the very same things that are in the back of your head saying something negative, you have to speak something positive to counter the negative that you think you're hearing. And you have to start speaking it. Okay, devil, get behind me. And you have to say, listen, I love this woman. I said for better, for worse. I'm going to die with you. I love you. You are not the enemy. And you have to just start speaking that.
You got to speak those things.
And you have to speak them. And sometimes it is difficult. But you have to, even if you get a band that you wear around your arm that says, I love this woman, but you need something to remind you when you get ready to show your behind that this woman you love has your back. You know, and I think sometimes we need reminders, whether it's a picture on the wall that says, my wife is the love of my life, or a band that you wear around your wrist on an everyday basis, a piece of jewelry that it's an eternity ring that says, she will be there with me eternally until death do us part. You know, there's something that has to remind you, but you got to find that reminder that brings you back to that solid place.
That's so true. Right? One of the tools that we share with couples when we're coaching, because they're in conflict, right? That's why they're coming to see us. And writing down, why do you love your spouse? And and once they start writing down like 10, then they start adding to it, right? And then it starts to put things more in perspective, where you can see, okay, we have some disagreement here, but I love this person. And just like you were saying, you know, you start speaking those things, because when we speak it, that's our truth, right? So it's necessary to say it, not just kind of think about it, but you got to speak it.
So I have two things. One, I think that we need to teach people how to have an argument, because people go off on a tangent, right? So you said he said something to hurt my feelings, right? And so now I'm not only going to talk about that you hurt my feelings when you said that, but let me tell you what happened on Tuesday and Wednesday. And he's like, well, why don't you tell me? Well, it was going to be but now that you did that, and that, right? And so now this one thing that you could have been dealing with has now funneled. Funneled, right? So teaching people to stay on subject, right? Stay on subject. Listen to what the other person is saying. You may not have meant to hurt my feelings, but you did. And by the more you keep on saying, oh no, I didn't know, you took it all wrong. You took it right. Kind of keeping the word you out of things, because it's so attacking. Right? So I'm sorry. That was not my intention, and I'm sorry, right? We apologize more to each other than we ever did. We do. Good. We apologize more.
That's good.
And I think teaching people how to have an argument, because then you don't get so off track, because it becomes a huge rippling effect.
That's a great point.
Right? And you know, I know it sounds great, the old adage, don't go to bed being mad, but when all those emotions are involved, and I have an analogy about life, and I think about it as, I look at something and I have a perception, and then my perception becomes my opinion, and my opinion becomes my truth, then my truth becomes my fact, and then I act. And what am I actually most of the time acting on? My perception.
Your perception. You told yourself a story.
That's it. That's it. Right? That's it. So I think we need to teach people how to argue constructively, or have difference of opinions constructively. And I think that would be very helpful to size it down, stand subject, right? Stand subject, and just
Yeah.
That's good.
The framework is important, right? Because, like you said, you can bring all that other stuff into it and you know, not get to the resolution.
Right. Well, for sake of time, we're going to have to wrap this up.
Okay.
All right.
We're going to have to wrap this up. This has been fantastic.
Yes, it has.
We so appreciate your time, your
We appreciate you asking us.
Yeah. This has been fun. We're going to be doing it again.